Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Carlos Phillips II, and I'm the proud principal of Gregory Lincoln Education Center, located in the Houston Independent School District. On today, I want to talk to you about the benefits of investing in student leadership. As a child, my father often told me that I had leadership abilities. He often stated that the purpose of my life would be different because I was distinguished different among my peers. So I had to be careful about how God talked to me and spoke to me as I made sure that I made different choices to do different things in life. However, as I matured, I began to have an attraction to some things that were not becoming of a young man. My uncle took me to the side and he showed me the value of having street sense. But in that conversation, my uncle said that your focus should be on having book sense instead of street sense. You need to focus on the value of an education because you can get more through the accreditations of the education ranks as to add value to your career. However, your street credibility will not last long for you in your future. When I got older, as a 10th grade student attending Willow Ridge High School, I was a member of the Willow Ridge Mighty Eagle Band under the direction of Mr. Ronald Thornton. Mr. Thornton noticed that my behavior and my academic mediocrity is not being successful. It was not a part of his philosophy of honor, pride, and discipline in his band program. Mr. Thornton noticed that my behaviors and the choices that I was making with the friends that I was hanging with could have been detrimental to my life and to my future. My behavior became so bad that Mr. Thornton thought it was best that I be removed from the band program. Mr. Thornton told me that you must get out of my band program, and the only way you can remain or come back into the program is if I have a conference with your mother. So I went home that afternoon and I told my mom, I said, Mom, I've been put out the band and Mr. Thornton says you need to come to attend the parent conference. And my mother is a loving mother. And I just knew at any moment that my mom would extend out and hit me, or she would throw something in my direction because she was so displeased in my behavior. So I stepped back and nothing came. She grabbed her keys and I thought as she grabbed those keys, the keys would come lunging towards me because she was angry and she was frustrated. She just said, Carlos, let's go. She got me in the car, and we only stayed 10 minutes away from Willow Ridge High School. That was the longest 10 minutes of my life because as I kept my eyes straight on the road, my peripheral vision looked to the side to make sure that right hand did not get across that steering wheel to be extended on my face. As James Brown says, Mama don't take no mess, and that's exactly like my mom. So please don't think that my mom was a child abusing parent because she wasn't. Once we arrived to Willow Ridge High School, we went into the office to meet with Mr. Thornton. Mr. Thornton began to discuss all of the negative things that I was displaying as a student and implementing in his band program. He stated that Carlos have kids following him and doing the wrong things, and it's unattractive to our band program. The more and more as Mr. Thornton began to talk about my negative behaviors, my mother immediately put her head down. As she put her head down, I noticed that my mother began to cry, and she began to cry excessively. All of a sudden, my mother picked her head up. I looked inside of her hands, and I remember it so clearly. All the water from the tears that my mother cried. I looked into her eyes, and inside of her eyes, I saw that they were so red because she was frustrated. She was tired. She said, Mr. Thornton, can you please save my son? My son cannot be a victim as a young black negative statistic who falls a victim of criminal lifestyle and criminal behavior. Please save my son because my son cannot grow up to understand the importance of doing criminalized behavior in order to be successful. Can you please save my son so that my son does not end up in the graveyard? Mr. Thornton replied, he said, Miss Phillips, Carlos looks like one of my own children. There are so many times when Carlos displays his negative behavior, I want to reach out and grab Carlos and discipline him immediately. My mother responded, she said, Mr. Thornton, I give you all rights and responsibilities to discipline my child. I looked at my mother because I could not imagine how my mom would relinquish my body to a man who had such large stature. When Mr. Thornton walked in the building, everyone would get quiet. When he spoke, everyone would listen because he commanded a sound of respect and authority in his voice. But then I looked at my mother and I noticed that I hurt my mother. And I noticed that I would never try to hurt my mother like that again based on my actions. I made a personal vow to myself on that day that I would never allow my mother to be in such pain on my actions. Miraculously and thankfully, my life changed within 24 hours. I can never explain it, but this is how it happened. My 10th grade year continued. I never got into trouble again from 10th grade beyond that day. My 11th grade year, I was voted class favorite among my peers and the best dressed among my peers. My 12th grade year, I was voted as the band president, the same band that I was kicked out of. Now I was leading as the president of that band. My student body felt that I deserved the right to be Mr. Willeridge, the homecoming king for my senior class. I went on and I graduated, and I went to attend Southern University. I graduated Southern University in 4 years, and I came back home. My mother stated that, Carlos, you need to be a part of the education system. Consider being a teacher. I took my mother's recommendation. I became a teacher, a special education teacher at B.H. Grimes Elementary in the Houston Independent School District. Once I became a teacher, I realized what Mr. Thornton saw in me, because I saw in the eyes of the young women and women that I faced every single day, that it was a gap missing. Someone had to stand between the gap to make sure that we can speak and represent what is positive environments and the leadership that our children must possess, and I had to do that. In that entire process, I thought about my grandfather, who was a landscaper by trade. In the summer times, he would allow me to go cut grass with him, and as I cut grass in this hot Houston heat and my friends were playing, I built up enough grit one day and I say, Papa, why does it take you so long to cut this grass? He looked at me, he said, son, because this is me, this is the pride that I represent on the work that I do. When I leave these people home, this work represents what I have done. I took that same philosophy, and my grandfather also stated when I took that philosophy that if you find something that you enjoy doing, you will never work hard a day in your life. I applied that to the field of education. Each and every day, I pour my heart out to those children. I pour my heart out to the teachers that I lead so that we can join together in this struggle to improve the success of our children. James Baldwin, an African-American writer, states that these are all of our children. We will benefit by or pay for what they become. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand our children are facing some phenomenal challenges. Challenges in social media where they see the things or they put things on display of what they're doing that are detrimental to their future. They're facing challenges of what they see or they hear on the radio or what they see on television. They have the misconception of what reality and entertainment is all about. Our children are also faced with the challenge of their community, the influence they have in the community, the get-rich-quick type of schemes. These are the challenges our children are representing. There's an old adage that says it takes a village to raise a child. However, respectfully, I want to add one disclaimer today. Yes, I agree that it does take a village to raise a child. However, it is imperative that the village is speaking the same language. The language that we must speak begins with perseverance. Are we teaching our students how to understand the reality of persevering when times get hard? Do we teach our children how to see things through when it's difficult? Are we teaching our children the basic biblical philosophy that I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me? Philippians 4:13. The language that I'm talking about is the language of Dr. Stephen Covey. We must seek first to understand, then to be understood, so that our children understand they can resolve conflict by just shaking hands, agreeing to disagree, instead of using their hands as a form of violence for any negative physical interaction with one another. That third language that I'm talking about is to be a critical thinker. Can our children make intelligent and wise decisions so they can overcome the challenges that they are faced with? I want to close today by leaving you with a quote by Dr. Booker Teleferro Washington. Booker T. Washington stated that success is not measured by what one achieves in life, rather by the obstacles in which they overcome to achieve it. Ladies and gentlemen, I need your assistance. I need your support. As the principal of Gregory Lincoln Education Center, it is my goal to make sure all our children understand that they can be successful despite the outcomes that they face on a day-to-day basis. I challenge you to talk to your employers, to roll up your sleeves and join with us in the field of education, because we need not only your financial resources, but we need your blood, your sweat, and your tears, because this is hard work. My grandfather said that if you work hard every day, but you love what you do, you will never work hard a day in your life. I love what I do as an educator. My passion for being an educator it extends beyond these words that I'm expressing to you today. But what I do every single morning when I see my children, I greet them with open arms. I say over and out aloud, system, children, make intelligent and wise decisions, because today is a great day. I thank you for your time. I represent the Houston Independent School District, but also I represent my students. These are all of our children. We will benefit by or pay for what they become, and we need your support. God bless you and God bless education.